Welcome to Concrete Block, the podcast where we dive into the latest news and current events from around the world. I'm your host, Walter, and we're glad you're joining us today. We're starting off with a story that's making waves in international trade and diplomacy. The United States and India are engaged in high-stakes negotiations over trade policies, with the U.S. seeking to impose tariffs on Indian goods. This comes as India's Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, is facing pressure from his own government to stand firm against American demands. According to reports, the U.S. is pushing for India to open up its markets to American companies, particularly in the tech and pharmaceutical sectors. However, India is hesitant to give in, citing concerns over job losses and the impact on its domestic industries. This trade dispute has significant implications for both countries, as well as the global economy. India is one of the fastest-growing major economies in the world, and the U.S. is its largest trading partner. A breakdown in trade talks could lead to a rise in protectionism and have far-reaching consequences for businesses and consumers alike. It's worth noting that this dispute is not just about economics, it's also about geopolitics. India is a key player in the region, and its relationships with other countries, including China, are being closely watched. The U.S., on the other hand, is seeking to assert its influence in the Indo-Pacific region and counterbalance China's growing economic and military power. As we explore this story further, it's essential to consider multiple perspectives and avoid taking sides. We'll be examining the arguments from both the U.S. and Indian governments, as well as the potential consequences for other countries and industries. We'll also be looking at other developments in the region, including a recent comment from Bangladesh's interim leader, Muhammad Yunus, that has raised eyebrows in India. Yunus suggested that Bangladesh is the only guardian of the ocean for the northeastern region of India, which has sparked concerns about China's growing influence in the area. And in Nepal, pro-monarchy protests turned violent last week, leaving 2 people dead and dozens injured. We'll be discussing the implications of this unrest and what it might mean for the country's fragile democracy. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're glad you're still with us as we dive into our middle segment. Today, we're discussing a complex issue that affects us all: trade and tariffs. Specifically, we're looking at the situation between Canada and the United States. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, tariffs? That sounds like a dry topic. But bear with me, folks, because this is an important story that can have real-world implications for your wallet and your community. So, let's break it down. The Canadian government has been facing pressure from the U.S. regarding trade agreements, and there are concerns about retaliatory tariffs being imposed on Canadian goods. This could lead to increased costs for consumers and potential job losses in affected industries. The parties involved have proposed various solutions, ranging from retaliatory tariffs to a Buy Canadian movement. The Liberal Party has announced plans to protect farmers and the supply management system, while the NDP is focusing on supporting workers impacted by the trade war. The Bloc Québécois is working to diversify Quebec's industries away from the U.S. market. Economists like Avery Schenfeld are suggesting that a softer approach might be more effective, recommending that Canada address the U.S.'s concerns and work towards mutually beneficial solutions. Meanwhile, the C.D. Howe Institute is advocating for a targeted marketing campaign to promote Canadian goods and services. Now, it's essential to consider multiple perspectives on this issue. Some argue that retaliatory tariffs are necessary to protect Canadian industries, while others believe that this approach could backfire and harm consumers. As we navigate this complex situation, it's crucial to stay informed and have a nuanced understanding of the potential consequences. We'll continue to monitor developments and provide updates as more information becomes available. That's all for this segment of Concrete Block. We've tried to present a balanced view of the trade and tariff situation, highlighting the various proposals and perspectives involved. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're wrapping up today's show with a story that's been making headlines in the business world. Tesla, the electric vehicle manufacturer, has reported a significant slump in sales and production for the first quarter of 2025. According to the company's latest numbers, production decreased by 16.3% compared to the same period last year, with a total of 362,615 vehicles produced. Sales also took a hit, with a 12.9% drop in deliveries, totaling 336,681 AVs. Now, it's worth noting that the decline in sales is largely attributed to the company's struggles in Europe, where customers have been expressing discontent with CEO Elon Musk's political activities. Protests at Tesla stores and vandalism of company property have become a regular occurrence, both in the US and abroad. The Models 3 and Y, which make up the bulk of Tesla's business, saw a decline in sales of 12.4% year-over-year, despite a recent refresh for the Model Y. On the other hand, some analysts argue that the sales slump may be a temporary setback and that Tesla's energy storage business, which deployed 10.4 GW in the first quarter, could be a potential area of growth. Additionally, Tesla investors seem to be taking the news in stride, with the company's stock price remaining relatively stable. It's also important to consider the broader context of the EV market, which is becoming increasingly competitive. Other manufacturers, such as BYD and Volkswagen, are gaining ground in the electric vehicle space, which could pose a challenge to Tesla's market share. Ultimately, the question on everyone's mind is, what does this mean for Tesla's future? Will the company be able to bounce back from this slump, or will it continue to face challenges in the competitive e-market? Only time will tell. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay informed.